I remember there was a night, I was just, it was a regular night and I had a dream. And in my dream, there was this green field. It was beautiful and it was perfectly manicured. And on this green field, there's this white table and it went as far as the eye could see. And on this table, there was all these different types of desserts. There was puddings, ice cream, pies, cakes. And I remember seeing ice cream Snickers. That's how vivid this dream was. I looked around and I saw a line behind me. And there was people waiting in this line as far as the eye could see as well. And in front of me, there was 4 women in front of me. And the one directly in front of me was a Hispanic lady. And I remember seeing her scoop up some chocolate pudding and putting it on her silver platter. And we all had silver platters. And so she was scooping up this chocolate pudding and putting it on her plate. And then it spilled. And then the chocolate pudding got into the grass. And then she did the strangest thing. She got on all fours and she got down and she started licking up the chocolate pudding. And so I came up to her and I was like, "Hey ma'am, there's so much on this table. You don't have to do that." And then she looked at me and then she had the devil's snarl. And so it was like, as if like you took a bone away from a dog. So she growled at me and her face was so demonic and I was, startled. And then I looked around and I looked at everybody and I looked back at the table and I saw a candle holder. And on this candle holder, there was a potato by itself in the middle. And so I walked up to the candle and I took the potato and I put my silver plate down. And I turned around and I said, "This is all I want." And so I walked off the line holding my potato. And when I woke up, I realized like this dream was straight out of the Bible for me. And I know that dreams aren't something that, we're supposed to follow. And a dream is something you just, it could be just something that your thoughts, re-implement in the night when you're sleeping. But one thing that I do believe in is I do believe in the Bible. And it just made me realize, Mark chapter 8, verse 36. What is it to gain the whole world and forfeit your soul? And so I saw that these people, everybody at that table, they're all possessed by what this table had to offer. And this table was what the world had to offer. And knowing that we're not a part of this world, that we're set apart, I knew that all I needed was the potato and I left. And then from that day forward, I changed my major because I wanted to go into physical therapy. I wanted to get my doctorate in physical therapy and eventually open up my own clinic. But then I decided, I'm gonna change my major to environmental science. And I'm gonna go overseas and I'm gonna work with the Hmong people. And I'm gonna preach the gospel to the Hmong people. And why environmental science? I was like thinking to myself at that time, my parents always farmed and always gardened every single place we lived in the United States. And I knew that that's what the Hmong people did. And so I wanted to have a good understanding of soil science, of working with the Hmong people in farms. And so I decided to go into environmental science. And then from that point on to the rest of my life, everything in my life trajectory just changed. I wanted to give everything that I had to my Lord, my God. I remember my dad telling me that when he finished studying TEE, level 1 and 2, he would retire and go overseas and become a missionary and just preach the gospel to the Hmong people. But what happened was By the time my father retired, he became deaf and diabetic, and he had all these other health problems, and he was never able to go. And so I told myself, I learned this from my father. I was like, I'm gonna give the best years of my life doing the Lord's work. And so I decided just to forfeit everything that I have in the United States here and just to go and follow God's calling. I remember during one of my trips to Southeast Asia, I was in one of the countries over there, and we were gonna go preach the gospel to a Hmong village. And so during this trip, it was a 4-hour trip, 4-hour drive. So we drove 4 hours deep into the jungles, up mountains and through these dirt roads. And I remember we were going up this steep hill. It was probably 45-degree angle hill. And we're going straight up this mountain on this really muddy road because it was the rainy season. And everything seemed like a puddle of mud. And we got up the hill, but then the truck started rolling back. And to my right, it was death, because these are these narrow, tiny roads on just mountaintops. And so we started rolling back, and I started thinking to myself, oh, I'm gonna die. But I was like, dying, doing the Lord's work, man, that is something that, that I would die for. And it's something that, no greater glory than dying for doing the Lord's work. But I mean, evidently I'm here, so I guess I didn't die. So the car rolled all the way back down the mountain, probably around 100 yards back down. And then we got out. And the driver was like, you guys go ahead on foot and I'll try to make it up. So we walked up the mountain, and then he kept trying and burning his clutch. And then eventually he made it up the mountain. And then we jumped back in the truck, and then we drove up the mountain, and we got to a point where there was no more road. And so he parked his truck and we went on foot. And so there was 3 of us. There was a local pastor, one of the elders from the church. And so they kept asking me, they're like, son, you're so fat. Do you think you'll be able to make it up this mountain? Because it was an hour hike up to the Hmong village. And I was like, I think I can make it. But it was funny. They were calling me son. Son, do you think you can do this? Son, do you think you can do that? But these guys are probably, the pastor was probably 4 years younger than me. But then over there, since they worked so hard in the hot sun, it's actually aged them a lot. They may be 4 years younger than me, but then they've already got families. I remember the elder is around my age, but he had already had 7 daughters. And so we started this hike up the mountain to the Hmong village. And it was a long hike on this narrow path through the jungles. And we eventually made it up to the mountain, to the Hmong village up in the mountain. And when we got to this Hmong village, this was like an authentic Hmong village. Everything was, the houses were made out of bamboo. They had straw roofs. It was dirt everywhere, dirt floors. Pigs, chickens were going inside people's houses, in and out. And so we got into this household, and they were just about to prepare dinner for us. And so when we sat down to eat dinner, before the Hmong people eat, they always wash their hands. But I saw the way they washed their hands, and I thought to myself, this is probably less sanitary than if I didn't wash my hands. Because the way they had it set up was they had a bucket of water, and everybody would stick their hands in the water and rub their hands in the water. When I looked down and looked at the water, I could see food particles, I could see dirt, sediment floating around the water. And then they would take their hands out of the water and they would wipe their hands on this really dark, dirty brown, white towel that used to be white. And everybody did that, but it was almost like a formality. And then we sat down and we had dinner together. And the way dinner was set up was There was 3 bowls, a bowl of rice, a bowl of water, and a bowl of boiled green beans. And so there was 3 spoons as well. And I remember we sat down at this little table, and I would take a spoonful of rice and I would eat it. And then I would go back and take a spoonful of water and I would drink it. And then we would also eat the green beans. And when I was finished, I would stick the spoon back into the bowl of rice. And I remember sitting in their very humble living room, and there was around 8 of us. And we ate this meal together and we shared these 3 spoons, knowing that everybody here had the flu. But, we blessed the food, we prayed, and, by God's grace, none of us were sick. And then this family came and they told us why they wanted to come to Christ. They told us that they've tried everything. They went to a shaman and paid him several bags of rice. And the shaman couldn't cure their family. And they were all sick, and they had their oldest son. He was not only sick, but he had told me that he was going crazy because they would find him up in trees, like climbing up a tree, and he'd be holding onto a tree very tight, and he wouldn't come down from the tree. They wouldn't know what was wrong with him. And then they went to Bashao, which is like a woman psychic or a witch, to try to fix their family. And she gave him all these different types of things to do, but it never helped. And then they called the pastor from a village a few hours away. And so we came there. And so when we got there, we brought this family to Christ, and we told them that salvation is free. Jesus died for our sins already. And you don't have to offer anything up to the demons. And so this family came to Christ, and when we tore down their knickknacks and their altars that they used to offer up to the spirits, and it was just amazing. During this time, this family was coming to Christ, and we were teaching them about Christ. The whole entire village had surrounded their house and looked through all the different you could see eyes peeping through all the cracks of the bamboo walls. And I could see people staring through the front door. And after this family came to Christ, I saw another young couple. They walked through the front door and they're like, we want to come to Christ as well. And then we went to that family's house, and that family came to Christ as well. And so when I came back from that trip, I was like, when Jesus said, the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few, it was true. The harvest is plentiful. And I know that we're here in the United States and we're working hard trying to bring people to Christ. And although it might be easier to live here in the United States, it's definitely harder to bring people to Christ. And so I knew it was my calling. I had to go to Southeast Asia. And so I prepared the next few years of my life to go to Southeast Asia. And when I got to Southeast Asia, I became a teacher at a private school in Thailand. And so I taught juniors in high school. And I can tell you this, it was a lot of fun teaching juniors in high school. It was like, I get to hang out with kids. I get to make them laugh. We get to have a good time. And at the end of the month, I got a paycheck. So it was awesome. I loved it. And I was like, I'm living the life. I get paid to do something that I want to do. And then when I get off work, I get to hang out at the children's dormitories, and I get to teach them boxing. I pray with them. And then on the weekends, I get to go up to the Hmong villages and I help pastor the churches that are without pastors. And every month, at the end of every year, we have this gigantic campaign where we go to like 6 or 7 Hmong villages and we potentially reach thousands of Hmong people with the gospel. and I get to meet all these different short-term missions teams, these different short-term missions teams that come from all these different cities from the United States. And we get to go out and we have fun and we go and minister and we make memories. And I'm just like, wow, it feels like I don't even work anymore because I'm just doing something that I love. And so as a missionary of the Christian Missionary Alliance, and being someone who just grew up in the Hmong district my entire life, I just ask that you guys partner with me in prayer, financially. The most important thing that we'll be needing, or that I'll be needing in Thailand, is prayer. So, like I told many of my friends before, yes, money can only fill my belly, but prayer can protect me from Satan himself.